Let's take a break. I'll come back after that and we'll get to London and find out what's happening in the UK. This is Chris Smith on ADHTV. Okay, let's fly abroad right now and do our weekly check-in with what's happening in the United Kingdom. Joining the program to give us the latest is Danny Roscoe, commentator and the blackest Englishman. Danny, welcome to the show again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me again.
I've got to link in the UK with the Middle East. Not much has been said, certainly not in Australia, about the UK's role, but UK forces involved in supporting Israel and they played their part in preventing further escalation. RAF jets were also reportedly ready to be engaged with Iranian targets but didn't need to do so. Can Britons expect to be pulled into a full-scale war here?
Well, if a war happens, then we will happily go into that, I would say, because we're not only defending Israel or helping to defend Israel, we're defending Europe and our own country.
And is Keir Starmer content with his role and the country's role?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure. He hasn't said much about it. He comes out and says that he stands with Israel. But then we've got the Foreign Secretary of David Lammy, who says that he would be happy if the ICC had the international arrest warrant for Netanyahu. He would be happy to arrest him if he's on UK soil. So there is a bit of a gap between them. But I'm happy that we have done what we've had to do, and we're doing what we can do for the country. But Richie Sunak, he said about the Islamists in the UK, and I think he was talking about the Labour Party because of the role that Lord Wahid Ali has and the Muslim Council of Britain. So over the next few days, we're going to see how they react to this. And, you know, if they react very negatively, I think Labour will start pulling out.
Yeah, like all left-wing parties, when it comes to war, they tend to be split right down the middle. Now, it's October and the UK is kicking off Black History Month with the theme of reclaiming narratives. What does that even mean?
Well, if you look at the professor of Black history, Kahindi Andrews, he says reclaiming it is to be able to call prime ministers and other people in parliament coconuts. Yet you can't, as a white person, use that on a black person. So it's one of these things that the Marxists use with we're reclaiming. We don't actually know what we're going to be doing, but all we're generally going to be doing is race baiting, because I call it anti-white month, because that's all it's doing. And you know, the narrative at the moment as well is, whilst we all went to Australia, the English people went to Australia, we needed to have these people to come in and help. And now it's ungrateful. Now, you know, the UK is ungrateful for that. So again, it's just whipping up racial tensions. But as I said, in the law now, it's okay to call coloured or black or ethnic minority prime ministers or cabinet members coconuts, which I don't really think is reclaiming anything.
Yeah, that's interesting. An eternal and perpetual debate. This is a really odd health story. The number of HIV diagnoses in England have hit a 15-year high. Has it been linked to what? Immigration, COVID-19? What are they saying?
Well, it's a bit between the two, between the forced vaccines that we had and the immigration. Now, we know that, you know, it does make you immunocompromised. So that is one factor of it. But we also know that TB is rising in the UK, something that we did eradicate, and that is directly from immigrants.
Yeah.
We've got over 100,000 people who are coming in. A lot of them are coming in from sub-Saharan Africa. And we know that they believe in voodoo and black magic. And their way of solving HIV is to have sex with children or virgin children. So we know that their mentality isn't that of doctors and scientists, what it is. So it is quite easy to, in that community, to say, oh, there's a few migrants here, we can help solve them. And then obviously the HIV will come up. And also we have a lot of attacks. And I think that's where it's coming from as well. So I would link it directly to the immigration. And I would ask that the UK government they like to have these reports, to have a public inquiry into why these things are happening. Because as far as we're concerned, we are this country who is highly vaccinated. We have eradicated a lot of things. And now these are coming back into the system. And we want to know
are
why.
you serious about the fact that some of the remedies for HIV includes pedophilia?
Well, is to have sex with virgins, and obviously in Africa and in these tribes, it is young children.
Wow. I want
That's what they'll go to the voodoo, the black witch doctor and he will say that's how you do it because they're pure. You got to think about the mentality is so simplified that you need someone as pure as you can. So they will do this. It's been documented that these barbaric actions happen as well as a lot of the other stuff they do on children.
Barbaric, all right. I want to talk about the horrific acid attack in Westminster, leaving a 14-year-old girl and a 16-year-old boy in a hospital. What are the motives? Is this a sign of escalating violence? What are people talking about?
Well, the Metropolitan Police, as per usual, is saying nothing. And if we as political commentators say the wrong thing, that we will end up in jail because that's what's gone on with the Southport murders. So when we look at it and we look at what's happened, Westminster Academy is at the Naim Dangoor Centre. If we look at Naim Dangoor, who is he? He was an Iraqi Jew. This happened at the time when Israel fired in defense into Iran. So therefore, me as a critical journalist, I can say that the people that we have running around the streets saying free Palestine, the people we have indoctrinated, the Hizbut Tahrir people, one of them have come across and said, you know what, we're going to indiscriminately just throw acid at these people. And this is not a UK crime. This is an imported crime, usually for honour killings or honour attacks, which is for Middle Eastern. The last person who did an acid attack was a Middle Eastern Christian. And he, again, wasn't found. So in the centre of London, in the most CCTV'd area of London, a man's gone on an e-scooter again, did acid on somebody, and he's not been able to be found.
Wow.
We all know that it's probably not going to be a Christian, and it's probably going to be someone from the Free Palestine indoctrination camp.
Wow. I want to go to Europe. Austria has stepped right in its recent election, one of several European countries to do so in recent months. What does it mean for the UK?
Well, it's good for Europe. I know that it's good for Europe. I'm very scared at the rise of the right-wing parties in Europe. I love the fact that we are breaking this left-wing narrative. But the UK, we are stuck in this perpetual cycle of not wanting change, really, or not being able to do change. So if the whole of Europe becomes right-wing and there's an invasion of Europe and it comes from Italy and it's coming up towards Britain, that if we're the only socialist country in the whole of Europe, we know what's going to happen. They're all going to flee it to us. Rather than what I'm trying to do, and I've become a lot more political now because I know it's how important it is to try and make the UK right-wing for the next election so then we can have our own type of European community where as one block we can say, literally, we can pass any laws together and we can stop this from happening. So we are, again, as always, on a knife edge. But if we do vote the same way, then it's going to be great for us as well. But if we don't, I think we're going to become the sick man in Europe again. Yeah, and we're going to be able to.
That's a really interesting theory, in that the more right-wing European countries become, the less they're inclined to take the stragglers from the third world, and you'll end up being a bigger dumping ground than you are already. It's a reasonable theory. Danny Roscoe, much appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me again.
Good to have you on the program. Now, before we go, let's go to your space.